Thank you. I am Tom Paine. I'm a writer. It was the cause of America, or more specifically, the American Revolution, that made me a writer. It was not, as some have said, brandy. Though I have found that the third glass of brandy does facilitate my style considerably. I wonder if you know of my works. How many of you are familiar with my book, Common Sense? Let me see your hands. Oh, quite a generous number. That is gratifying. And now, how about the essays, The American Crisis? How many have some familiarity with that? Only a very few hands. Surely you know these are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will in this crisis shrink from the service of his country. But he that stands it now deserves the thanks and love of man and woman. Those essays were occasional essays written in support of the American Revolution to bolster the morale of the American soldiers. Now I wonder how many of you know of my book, The Rights of Man. May I see hands again? Very fine, very fine. That book I wrote in support of the French Revolution and in critique of the British government. It was a response to Edmund Burke's book, Reflections on the French Revolution. Now, Mr. Burke was one who admired the nobility. I think the nobility are very well named. They are people of no ability. Not everyone has liked me or my works. I would like to know how many of you have some familiarity with my book, The Age of Reason. There are a number of frowns that accompany the hands that rise. Gouverneur Morris said of me, Tom Paine has a fine hand to write, but no head to think. William Cobbett said, Tom Paine will be remembered like Judas. And he added, everything that is base, malignant, treacherous, unnatural, and blasphemous can be summed up in one word, Paine. A group of Federalists gathered once to celebrate the anniversary of the former and by that time deceased President George Washington, raised their glasses on high and proposed this toast. May they never know pleasure who love pain. John Adams wrote something so marvelous that I wish I had written it about him. I have it written down here so that I can get it accurately. He said, I know not whether any man in the world has had more influence on its inhabitants or affairs for the last 30 years than Tom Paine. That sounds good, doesn't it? But he follows with this. There can be no severer satire on the age. For such a mongrel between pig and puppy, begotten by a wild boar on a bitch wolf, never before in any age of the world was suffered by the poltroonery of mankind to run through such a career of mischief. I have had my enemies. I came to America in 1774. I came with a letter of recommendation from Benjamin Franklin, whom I had met in London. In that letter, Mr. Franklin said, Thomas Paine is an ingenious, worthy young man. I have no doubt that I'm ingenious, and I think I am worthy, but I was not young. I was 37 years old. Those first 37 years in England had been largely routine and often rather desperate years. My father was a corset maker, and that was a trade that I followed myself for a time. He was a Quaker. My mother was of the Church of England. They did not agree on religion. And I came to disagree with both of them. From as early as I could conceive an idea and act upon it by reflection, it has seemed to me that the Christian system of belief is either untrue or a very strange matter indeed. When I was 7 or 8 years old, a relative came to our house. She was to read to us a sermon. The title of it was "The Redemption of Man Through the Death of the Son of God." My parents and I listened patiently as she read this sermon to us. And when it was finished, I walked out of our house into the garden, and I can recall the exact spot on which my spirit revolted against this idea. The idea of a God so bent upon vengeance that he would kill his own son to satisfy. If a human being did such a thing, would we not have that person imprisoned or perhaps put to death? No, I cannot believe in such a God. I do believe in a God. There is a God. But I cannot believe in such a God. Well, I was talking about 1774, wasn't I, when I came to America?